Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the garage. It's still a chilly week here in Adelaide. Pete's here, Gary's here, you're here, and the Court of Public Opinion is in session. Welcome. Again, we don't have any dates. We have that system failure upstairs. The computer is something upon which you rely, you know. And when it's not there, or it breaks down, or something happens, goes offline, or whatever it means, you're reminded just how vulnerable you are. Anyway, it's okay. We'll have them back next week, I promise. Oh, well, actually, tomorrow, Friday, around the dining room table. I'll make sure I've got some dates, because I've got some old ones that I collected that Marty Smith gave me from the old 5DN days. Aldi is once again the cheapest supermarket in Australia. Yep, that's good. They keep that up. That's going to be a business path to prosperity. Somebody reminded me that the Vespa, you know, the motorcycle. You guys ever? You'd have seen a Vespa motorcycle.
Vespa, very famous.
Scooters, aren't they?
Yeah,
yes, a motor scooter, yeah.
Formerly known as a scooter.
Oh, scooter.
Yes, in Adelaide in the 60s, it was scooter. It was de rigueur to be out the front of Cigalis's and Scott's Menswear, which was opposite John Martin's, and park your scooter and you were a mod.
As opposed to a rocker. Them's were the days. Well, the Vespa turns 80 years old this week. 80 years old, and they're sought after, and they still... You know what Vespa means, by the way, do you?
I should know.
It's Italian for?
I love girls.
No. Well, you've got to have a girl on the back, riding side saddle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Summer holiday.
Pete? What do you reckon? Vespa.
No idea.
It means it's Italian for wasp.
Really?
Yeah, because it makes that two-stroke sound. Yeah. God, I admire the leader of the opposition here in South Australia, Ashton Hearn. I'm trying to get her on the show on a Friday. Hasn't returned any of my calls. I'm shattered. She has one small child, and she's announced that there's another on the way. Congratulations. Congratulations. I can't begin to imagine how difficult it would be for a woman to be a career politician, indeed the leader of a political party, and still devote time necessary, I underline that, necessary to being a mother of two small children. Leaves me gobsmacked that you can do it. I don't understand how anyone can do it or feel good about doing it, because something's going to suffer. Should we feel good about asking her to do it? I guess if she wants to, if she's got the right stuff, the determination, the grit, I'm in awe, I tell you. For anyone to have to go through the hours, the media pressure, the scrutiny, the demands of constant public appearances, the rigours and responsibility of high political office, motherhood. Motherhood's enough. That should be enough. Anyway, that's the greatest job in the world, Ashton, by the way. Motherhood. Ashton Hearn is pregnant again. And what about parental leave? I don't agree with parental leave. I grew up in an era where such things didn't exist. That doesn't mean they shouldn't exist. But I have to agree with Pauline Hanson. If you can't or you don't come to work for whatever reason, I know we have a certain number of sick days, sick leave, which I guess is there to cater for colds and flu or a broken wrist or an accident or something. But parental leave, which could be 6 months, and I know there are people who want it to be 12 months, there is taxpayer-funded parental leave. But how is an employer and in this particular case I'm talking about the people of South Australia, how do we, or the Liberal Party, anyone hold a job like that open for that length of time? And I suppose the husband's going to come along and say, well, I want some, she's got maternity leave, I'll have parental leave. Yeah. She has maternity leave, so he'll probably get the same for the same reason. Ladies and gentlemen, this is insanity. Sorry, I believe that. It's not reasonable. Our sponsors are Rossdale Homes, as I tell you every opportunity I get, fine South Australian company. They're famous for many things, including their fixed price guarantee. No nasty surprises. You can be a first home builder, you can be an experienced builder, but you'll be delighted with their workmanship, their slogan, when you deal with Rossdale Homes, when trust is a must, their fixed price contract is one that only you can change. For peace of mind and great quality, rossdalehomes.com.au. I've been thinking about this. I probably shouldn't have been. I mean, everyone's been talking about it. Front page, everywhere. What was that, Pete?
Mosquito, mate.
The mosquitoes are coming. It's been everywhere. Karl Stefanovic's saga. We talked about it on Friday last around the dining room table.
Stefanovic.
Yeah, you reckon it's...
No doubt about it. Stefanovic.
Okay, isn't he entitled to call himself what he wants?
He is absolutely entitled, but it's wrong.
Okay. We had as a special guest Steve Carey, who's a very widely experienced, well thought of journalist and media executive, to sum it all up for us. It seems that Channel 9 said to their very well-paid star of the breakfast show, the Today Show, that they were not going to renew his contract at the end of the year. Well, he hadn't been number one forever. So I don't know what their KPIs were or their requirements were, but you know, if you got to pull $2 or $3 million, you want to be number one, I would have thought. I thought it was very decent of them to give him that sort of warning. Then they gave him permission to, while still employed at 9, to start up his podcast. Now, part of the problem of radio and television is that these days the growing popularity of podcasts and live streaming shows. Now, I can't pretend that I don't have an axe to grind in here, because we have this podcast and we have our live streaming show on a Friday. But we didn't get into it yesterday. We've been doing this for... Pete, how long have we been doing this?
About 8 years.
8 years. Well, and it's a slow building up of following and audience and all of that. But
How many have you got to, Jeremy?
How many?
How many listeners and viewers?
Oh, quite a few. Millions.
Oh, really? How many millions?
Well, I don't know. I don't blow my trumpet about it, but something like
It was
7 million.
Ozcast that do it.
Well, Ozcast do it. I don't know. I would have no idea.
Ozcast.
Ozcast, who put the show out on various platforms, many of them.
7 million.
7 million. Well, I'm amazed. As I say, I'm gobsmacked by it, but very thankful for it. But in sharp focus, in the United States, when the giant CBS network, the owners of Channel 10 here in Australia, announced that they were closing down 700 radio stations across the United States. A network that had been around for 100 years, ladies and gentlemen. The reason the president of the company gave was a shift in listener habits and tastes, and the success of live streaming radio stations, sponsors deserting, and the popularity of podcasts. You see, the audience is only so big, and you can just cut it in so many different ways. What's happened then? No one has a slice big enough to make it pay for the big stars and the high overheads. No critical mass. So Karl was probably quite smart in getting, at this stage, while he still had 6 months on air to cross-promote his venture, his podcast, move some of his audience across to his podcast, the decision to interview far right, I don't even know, I'd never heard of the guy, controversial individual by the name of Tommy Robinson. He had a criminal record, it seems. Well, that provoked the bosses at Nine to take him off the air before December. It only makes sense. Why would you allow your biggest star, being paid at least $2 or $3 million a year, to set up in competition against you, and you sit there and let him use your medium to promote his? It doesn't make any sense. The feeling is that Nine just picked a fight, grabbed the opportunity, probably much the same as Kyle Sandilands was cancelled at ARN. They suddenly realised that this contract, which was reportedly worth, I don't know, you can't believe what you read, $100 million over 10 years, they said not sustainable. Well, it must have been a very strange executive who thought that it was. And I doubt if he's still with the company. Regardless of the money, who would sign anybody up for 10 years? Public taste, fashion, the media itself, life changes dramatically in 10 years. But going back to the Karl Stefanovic real thing, the issue seemed to me to come back to freedom of speech. The Channel 9 attitude towards an experienced journalist who is entitled to handle an interview any way he chooses. But as I learned as both a performer and an owner of 3 radio stations, the most valuable thing you have is not your license to broadcast, it's your people. Your people, your talent. They can make you or break you. You hire good people, and then you stand by them. You back them up. I'll give you a couple of examples. As a performer, you don't expect management to throw you under the bus. Nobody does. Unless, of course, they were going to do it for some other reason. Don't just pick a fight, pick a reason. I remember when I was at 5KA here in Adelaide. I was doing the morning program. The station was preparing to move to new premises, a renovated building which was being worked on by members of the Builders Labourers Federation, the CFMEU of the day. Now they decided, well, if you've listened to this show, you can imagine what they objected to. They decided that they didn't like me, or they didn't like what I said, or what I stood for. So they said to management, okay, you want your building done? They said to management, Stan Barrett, they said, get rid of him, or we'll declare your building black. Well, I mean, there's a lot of money involved in building a radio station. The same standover tactics that they use today. You can understand management saying, God, what can we do? The easiest thing would be to just get rid of Cordeaux. Well, Stan Barrett, the manager, didn't. He didn't. He stood by me. He told the union to go to hell. The radio station got its new building. I'm not exactly sure how. I'm not exactly sure if money changed hands. I got no idea. But that's an example of management being loyal. Loyalty is a two-way street. You give it, you get it. Channel 9 got upset because Karl's interviewee had a criminal record. I'll tell you another story. Back in the 80s, at Yatala Labour Prison, there was a red phone, public phone, in the exercise yard. I know that sounds odd. And the prisoners had access to it. I was doing the morning program on 5DN, 9 to 12. Busy morning, busier switchboard. Lots of calls. One of the calls was from a guy called James William Miller, a convicted murderer, the Truro mass murderer, who proceeded to tell us his story and protest his innocence. By Channel 9 standards, I should have been sacked on the spot. Instead, they put me up for a Walkley Award, which I, in fact, duly won. Another example of how management or ownership can back its people or their judgment. We had a tip, again at 5DN, that there was a siege in Washington at the B'nai B'rith building, a Jewish association invaded by Hanafi Muslims. I wonder what else has changed. Same old. This was back in you could look it up, it's in the archives, 1977 it was. We rang the B'nai building and I said, I'm Jeremy Cordeaux from the Macquarie Broadcasting Network in Australia. We're told there's a siege going on. And the guy with a very thick Middle Eastern accent picked up the phone. He was one of the terrorists who had invaded the building and killed several people and was holding 20 hostages while making demands of the American government. Tense, a very dangerous thing that I did, continuing the conversation, allowing this guy to vent all his anger and his hatred. We were, of course, in a position where we could have made things worse. This was very, very real. Lives had been lost and lives were at stake. An interview, ladies and gentlemen, of a lifetime. Management did not come running down the stairs and reprimand me. It was a very good, compelling interview, which we sold, or when I say we, the Macquarie Network sold around the world. It indeed got me the gold medal at the Radio Festival of New York. I give you these examples because I don't believe that times have changed so much that management have forgotten what makes for good and compelling listening and viewing. The loyalty that it gives to its people will be rewarded. If you pick the right people, you're only backing your own judgment by backing them. Sacking Karl Stefanovic for interviewing, what was his name, Tommy Robinson, on his podcast. I don't know how many viewers he has, but how much damage did that do? He had been given permission to run that podcast. Doesn't seem to me to be a sacking offence. Freedom of speech is a very touchy subject. You can't, for example, you can't stand up in a crowded hall filled with people and yell fire. I mean, some people might say that that is freedom of speech. It's not. It's reckless, stupid, and irresponsible. Anyway, the other thing that you've got to look at is the sacking, the controversy, the publicity. It's got to do Karl Stefanovic's podcast venture no harm and probably a lot of good. I didn't even know he had a podcast until all of this popped up. I can tell you from personal experience, ladies and gentlemen, from my 5AA days, you may remember them, they're not all that far past. You have to be very careful when you sack someone that it is considered to be fair and reasonable in the court of public opinion, because the fallout can be quite devastating for the station. Now, I was hoping to bring you a piece of video about multiculturalism because it's an important issue, it's topical. Australia spends $435 million a year on multiculturalism, and we had some footage of demonstrations that were held over the last couple of weeks in our major cities which demonstrate multiculturalism in all its glory and all its diversity and all its danger. But we have to figure out a way, Pete. Somehow we've got to figure out a way of getting this vision on the screen. We're going to work on that. Maybe next week. Thank you very much. Again, I'm sorry about the dates. Let me wish you a happy birthday if you're having a birthday or a wedding anniversary. I look forward to your company tomorrow, live streaming around the dining room table, 9 o'clock till 12. It's jeremycordeaux.com. That's all you have to do. Isn't that right?
And hit subscribe once it comes onto the screen, and then it'll return next week.
Okay, right. But that's the website. That's the page, jeremycordeaux.com. Live streaming, 3 hours. Interesting talk, guests, fascinating stuff. We work on making it fascinating for you. Believe in yourself. Thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, and I hope to see you and maybe talk to you tomorrow. 0491 65 68 60. Goodbye for now.